Welcome to When Not Yet Becomes Right Now, the podcast where we dive deep into the moments of transformation, the times when not yet shifts into right now and everything changes. I'm your host, Jen Ginty, and this podcast is all about those pivotal moments in our life journeys. You know the ones, when the hesitation fades, when we take that first step, even if it feels like a leap. It's in these moments that growth and healing begins. Each episode will explore stories of resilience, moments of clarity, and the sparks that ignite real change. From personal experiences to expert insights, we'll uncover how people navigate the complex journey we call life and come out stronger on the other side. Whether you're searching for that spark in your own life or just curious about how change unfolds for others, you're in the right place. We'll discuss the ups and downs, the breakthroughs and setbacks, and how to embrace the right now, even when it feels out of reach. Because sometimes the hardest part of the journey is realizing that the moment you've been waiting for has already arrived. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of When Not Yet Becomes Right Now. I have a great guest on today. I can't wait for you guys to meet him. His name is Andy, and I'm going to introduce him. Andy Casey is a transformative life coach and NLP master practitioner who once lived in the shadows of self-doubt despite outward success. After navigating the challenges of a difficult childhood, a demanding business, and the emotional highs and lows of parenthood, including IVF and adoption, Andy reached a turning point. Fueled by self-reflection, mentorship, and a passion for personal growth, he broke free from the illusion of success and found his true purpose. Now, Andy empowers others to unlock their potential and create extraordinary, limitless lives. Welcome, Andy.
Wow, I like that introduction.
Oh, I'm glad you do.
It's weird. Do you know what the really weird thing is about? I've never heard anyone say that back to me.
Okay.
And just hearing that, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it sounds like we have a lot to dive into.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So tell me, what is your origin story?
Wow, where do you want me to start this one?
However long ago you want to start it.
So I live in the UK, and do you know what? With every conversation, whenever I start a conversation with anyone abroad, I always have to say, "What time is it there? What time is it there?"
It's noon here.
Oh, okay, cool. It's 5 p.m. here. Amazing, amazing. So my story was I was an only child, and it wasn't until later in my life I realized that I grew up grieving my sister who passed away before I was born. And I never realized that you could experience grief in this way, because it wasn't until I got older that I was like, oh, wow, this is how I felt, you know? So I was an only child. My dad was a heavy drinker. Later had to have a liver transplant and went through quite a lot. My mum was like this devoted Christian to the church community, and as I grew up, I never really realised that my mum had this amazing community around her, which is what really is amazing. And my dad, who needed the support with his drinking, and also the bereavement of his own daughter, which they lost when she was 5. Times were different at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 90s. So I grew up in the kind of very begrudgingly, mum's off busy with, she used to run this, I don't even know if you have it in the States. It was called the Girls Brigade, and it was like the Girl Guides, but kind of more of a kind of church kind of orientated kind of organization. And mum used to help run that. And she was always busy. But I think that's what I didn't realize until I was older, that she kept herself busy in this community, and that was her support network, So I grew up in a kind of, real stable home, but always kind of felt a little bit of kind of discomfort with, the wake of my sister passing away. My dad was a heavy drinker, as I said. And I always kind of felt a little bit like I kind of wish I'd had a brother or sister, but, it's weird because you can't miss what you didn't have. But it's weird that, I wrote a song called Mayflower, and the song is, one of the lyrics in the song is a picture of you framed up on top of the TV. And I used to look at my sister every single day. When I looked at We used to watch the Australian TV program Neighbours, and you watch TV straight after school. My sister was there. She was always there. She was always this image in my childhood. And growing up, she was always part of it. As I grew up, I was always kind of I've always been quite outgoing, loved music, loved performance. I wanted to be a clown when I was at school, and my careers advisor said, and I went, a clown. And at the time, I was running a juggling club with like 20 members at 15 years old. I was quite entrepreneurial back then. I was charging 20 pence for people to come and join my juggling club. We were unicycling, we were stilt walking, fire breathing, and I was always quite outgoing. Had an amazing opportunity in 1999 where I was able to join a band that we got really successful, and we signed a record, signed a contract with a major record label, and it's probably from around that sort of time that things for me after that kind of spiraled, and this kind of 18 months of what I can just describe as, we were going to America, we were in LA, New York, we were kind of living the rock star dream, but we never got to release the album, so the record company spent thousands on us. We were recording in Sunset Sound, where some of the most amazing musicians have recorded. Led Zeppelin record there. Really funny moment while we were recording there. There was a basketball court outside, and Macy Gray just happened to walk past, and like I remember thinking, like, wow, this is real, right? And it was actually, she was recording the song Demon with Norman Cook at the time, which I thought was like quite a cool collaboration, that we were there from the UK, so was he, and he was collaborating with an American artist, which was really cool. So yeah, kind of moving forward, when that all kind of stopped, because we were at this kind of moment where we were a successful young songwriting band, and it all kind of came to a slump one day, and then I came home and probably that's where my turning point in my life really started, because I'd always loved the idea of being a rock star. I mean, who doesn't want to be a rock star, right?
Right.
And I had all these amazing experiences, but came back with this slump. And I'm the kind of person that if you said to me, I've broken down, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be there and I'll help you, because I've always been the guy that makes stuff happen. And I came back from this rock and roll lifestyle and went, right, what do I do now? I like surfing. I know, I'll become a lifeguard. So in a week, I did my lifeguard qualification. I went further on in life where I got told I couldn't have a sales job. I applied for a sales job a couple of years later, and they said, you haven't got any sales experience. So I said, fine, I'll valet cars. I'll clean cars. And then I cleaned cars. I got chatting to people on the forecourt. Once I got chatting to people on the forecourt, I started selling the cars. So I've always been the kind of person who's like, my school, GCSEs over here, my school results were always terrible. I hated school, never really embraced the education. And my school careers advisor actually said in my school report, the problem is with Andrew is the lights are on, but no one's home. Take that. How's that for a limiting belief when you're a teenager? Anyway, fast forward through all of this, I end up leaving this job in a surf shop. Leaving the beach job on the beach and get this job in a surf shop, because I'm a cool dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
My hair's like down here at the time, just below shoulder length, if anyone's listening, because obviously I just pointed. It's always the thing on a podcast. If people are listening and you go, it's like this, they have no idea what's just happened.
Exactly.
That's where I met my lovely wife, and we've been together now for, oh my God, I should have rehearsed this number, 23 years.
Wow.
Must be 23 years. Yeah, because I'm 44 this year, and we met when I was 20. So, we've been together for a long time, and from kind of the early stages in our relationship, I always knew that we were going to have fertility problems because of Kate had some hormone issues. Later on we got married, and it was never a problem. But you don't realize how much you want a child until you can't have one.
Yeah.
We went through some tough times when we in the early stages, well, just after we got married, we started the IVF treatment. That was 2007, and a lot was, 4 or 5 journeys, like 200 miles up the road a week, just to go and have bloods taken or hormone levels checked, and it was a lot, and it was a lot of stress. And we had 3 cycles of the IVF, and that for us was, I think, if there was a test of anyone's relationship, that was the test. We went through, you've seen it in the films where someone gets the pregnancy test out and they've got no result, or it's not pregnant, and we just got to a point where we just didn't believe that even pregnancy tests had the other line. Whereas when it was COVID times, we ended up getting all the lines each time.
Of course.
The irony.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So so we went through that, and we came to a point where we'd had 3 cycles of IVF, and on the 3rd cycle, we sat there with a consultant, and they just said, "Oh, there's nothing more we can do for this time. We've overstimulated Katie, and basically, we we're going to kind of stop this cycle of the IVF treatment." To which Kate and I just went, "Right, we can't afford to do it again. Let's go home." And it felt a bit like the day I drove home from the band, where the record label said, "Yeah, we're not going to keep you on," or, "Let's move forward, do something else, guys."
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yes, you have all of these grieving times in your life. It starts so young with your sister,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then these different losses. You've had many different kinds of losses in your life.
Do you know what? I never realized they were losses. So the next step of my life was where it started. I basically, in 2007, after we got married, I'd set up a photography and video business. I knew it wasn't always what I wanted to do, but I'd done it in college before I had the record deal, and how hard can it be? It's only taking photos, and I got to a point where I've run the business for 17 years, and it's been amazing. It's been incredible. So 2010, I opened the studio, and we just finished our IVF, and we ended up, where do we go now? Like, what do we do next? It's like, now, as I've kind of just said to you, I'm the person who, you go to like a theme park or something, and I'm like, let's go. And my wife's like, okay, whoa, let's look at the map. Let's see where we're going to go. And I'm like, let's go. Anyway, so she needed some time to grieve. She needed some time to rest. She'd been a human pincushion for several years.
Yeah.
So we'd always had a bit of an in-joke in our family with my wife and myself, which was, "Can I have a dog?" And she'd say, "Yeah, when you're 60." Because she never really liked dogs. She was cornered by dogs when she was a kid. And again, a limiting belief. This woman loves dogs now, I tell you. We've got 3 spaniels now, and she'd probably prefer the dogs than the kids, but there we go. So we bought a dog. We got this dog called Sprocket, named after the TV kid program. As I was a kid in Fraggle Rock, the dog was called Sprocket.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Oh, really? So we got this dog who he was everything. He sat by me at work. I had this studio, and he'd sit in my van. I went through a bit of a phase where I was photographing a lot of celebrities, and I was doing a lot of celebrity jobs. And that dog's been, standing at events, watching fireworks with me while I'm photographing, and he just was the best ever. And then, we had him. So we lost him when he was just under 10. And that was a really weird time for us as a family, because I didn't realize that all the stuff that we'd gone through, he was my therapist. And I never realized that until we lost him. I should have actually added one very interesting point, that a year after we actually got the dog, about 18 months later, we actually adopted my daughter. and we
Oh.
went through the adoption process. I shouldn't have forgotten about her.
Oh,
We'll probably hear her in a minute.
this is linear though. You're talking linear,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, and exactly, I'm the guy at the theme park without the map running around. So we had this like amazing time where we then, like I said, we adopted our daughter, and lots of exciting things happened. When we adopted her, she had bilateral hip dysplasia. So both hips were like, anyone who's not watching, it's like a cup and a ball, like a ball and socket joint, sorry, and like her ball and socket just weren't in together.
Wow.
So we were told when we adopted her that she had mild asthma, mild eczema, mild asthma, and she wasn't quite walking yet. But kids are delayed, you know. Um, we got her home. We put her on some decent food. She's never had eczema since, apart from if she drinks a bit of milk, too much milk, she gets a bit of eczema. But that has happened to a lot of people with dairy.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we had 28 weeks with her when she was in plaster cast.
Wow.
I think she was 6 operations,
Wow.
2 major surgeries, 9 hours on one hip, 8.5 hours on the other hip.
Uh-uh.
And we were like, by this as well, my dog Sprocket, he's in the back of the van with me for 9, like sleeping in the car in the car park for like 9 hours while we're like waiting for my daughter. You know, we take him out for walks and stuff. He was always there for us, you know.
Yeah.
A year or so after all of our operations, we went through this moment of catastrophe, and it was you know, as if like the craziness hadn't been enough for us. She was rushed into hospital with pneumonia.
Oh.
And she was then in intensive care for 10 days, all hooked up to machines and getting to watch the child that you dreamed of being a parent your whole life, but they never warn you about the sad and the scary stuff that comes
No,
with it.
never.
So yeah, they sedated her in front of us and put her to sleep for 10 days,
Wow.
which was horrendous. However, I think it's the best thing that ever happened to her, because after this, we went and had some tests and we found out she had a condition called DiGeorge syndrome. So when we kind of looked at DiGeorge syndrome, we suddenly went, oh, that makes sense.
Hmm.
That makes sense. So she was very delayed with her speech. DiGeorge syndrome is a microdeletion of chromosome 21.
Okay.
So whereas with Down syndrome, they've got the additional chromosome, she's got the microdeletion. In my brain, it makes no sense whatsoever. But, you know, and the one thing the doctors always said to us was, oh, don't Google it. And it is like, you know, people who have had this microdeletion, some have asthma, some have Down syndrome, some have this, some have that. And there's so many different things that, you know, it's almost like saying people who eat apples have got red hair. It's that broad, but it opened up a lot of areas. So she has a lot of learning difficulties. She's quite delayed with her speech. Anyway, I won't go into that too much, but the part of my story which we're going to get to is 4 years ago, almost to the week, or not necessarily week. It's very close in a few days. We sadly had to say goodbye to Sprocket,
Oh.
and obviously we got through lockdown. That was all right, but when we got through this moment of losing him, I'd kind of been struggling at point anyway, because I was doing it all for the girls. I was working late. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was just not happy, and got to a point where once we lost him, I then kind of stood there with my other half and was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I remember her saying, like, she thought afterwards, she said, I thought you wanted the divorce. I was like, no, like, no way. I said, but like, I just can't do this. I'm coming to work every day. And to the outside world, I was okay. I was fine, but I was just burning the candle at both ends. I wasn't happy. I'd actually just done a really big uh, shred in the gym as well. So I'd gone from 105 kilos down. The lowest I got to, I think, was 80 kilos.
Wow.
Um, And I never realized I could struggle with body dysmorphia because people would say, "Oh, Andy, you look so skinny."
Mm.
I'm like, I don't want to be skinny. Like, no, I'm like, I always say I'm 6 foot, but I'm like that much shorter. But it's cool to say I'm 6 foot, right?
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, so we just went through this big shift in our lives where I had to do something, and um, I ended up kind of getting a coach myself, working on my own mindset, working on my own mental health, um, doing stuff that I love. And, I ended up weirdly finding like a group of friends in a community within that program, which even still to this day, every single morning and every night, we check in on a WhatsApp message, tell them what we're doing in the morning, check out whether we've done it in the evening, proper accountability. And it's been like amazing. But about sort of a year after I'd kind of done my work, I kind of realized that I could help other people. And I've run businesses, I've had a lot of life experiences. I've also felt a lot of pain, and I know what it feels like when the pain is transformed into a positive. And one of the weird things, one of the things that I learned through all of this, and it's one thing that's kind of stuck with me quite a lot, is that in order to grieve, you must first experience love.
Yeah. Yep.
So um, I just think that's a really beautiful thing. So I think all of the things that I went through, I've done a lot of work with NLP, which is the neuro linguistic programming. So I became a NLP master practitioner, and that was a massive change as well because I got to experience all this like visualization and um, the way the way you communicate, the way your mind communicates with yourself, and um, you know, there's so many different things that have kind of changed my life. And I get to use this myself. My daughter has experienced various different types of this NLP work as well. And we'd been to an event, and I just said to my wife, we live about 4 hours from London, and we were driving back from London, and the radio wasn't on, and we're just talking all the way, talking. And she just said to me, "You've got to do this." And I was like, "Got to do what?" She was like, "You're a coach." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "You're a coach. That's what you do. That's what you're good at. That's where you get your drive, where you get your passion."
Your purpose, right?
Yeah, my purpose and my passion is to, you know, I hate to say it, but be a professional people pleaser and actually help other people be happy. And yeah, so that's when I did my training, I did coaching certifications, I did my NLP and everything. And yeah, I've just been on this magical journey of now I actually get to work with people on their journey and get them to see what's possible, because there were times in my life where I didn't think I could get out of this mundane way of living or mundane way of thinking. um yeah, and I think the most amazing part of it all is now I have um something which I didn't think was possible, which is I have the freedom to just be me and be present with my girls.
Yeah.
I get to take, if I want, my daughter gets picked up every day from home now, but I get to be here when she comes home from school. I get to do the school run. I get to, if I want to, I can be at the school plays. Um, and I just get to be more present. I've have a new rule that I don't work after 4 p.m. apart
That's a
from
great
today.
rule.
In real life.
Right. I don't like to think of it as work. Every time I meet with a new person for their story, I come out of it like I just made a new great friend, because and I think one of the things that came up a lot in your story was community.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
it comes up a lot in all of the stories that I hear. And it really is important,
yeah.
especially as we age. Because
Yeah.
I used to, when I was young and, we had a very traumatic childhood. My abuser was taken from the home, was taken out of the home when I was 14. And,
Wow.
I got into all of these therapies that I was just like, oh God, I got to do all this therapy, and hated group therapy. And the kids that were in the group hated the group therapy too,
Hmm.
until I had my loss that caused me to have my right now moment. And I decided that I had to put a team together for myself, right? And
Hmm.
part of that team was group therapy. And
Yeah.
for the first time, I appreciated having that community around me, these people that understand what I went through and understand what I'm going through now. And it
Mm.
sounds like your mom had her community
Yeah.
and you created this community. Tell me more about the community that you're in, that group.
So now it's so this was it was actually set up by the coach that I was working with previously. So everyone that was kind of in the program, it was a I did like a 28-day program, and then we did a 3-month program, and then we did a 12-month. And the 12-month program, we were then put in this group. You could do it if you wanted to. So it was an accountability group. And it was a WhatsApp group. There was 10 of us in there originally, and now there's 5 of us in there. A couple of the guys still work with the coach that we work with, and some of them don't. And yeah, so we check in every morning. Um, Even today, there's one of the guys in there, Graham, who he's a driving instructor, and yeah, we're just giving him some feedback on some stuff from his work, and just being able to share with, like, like-minded guys. And the youngest in there is like 26. I'm gonna probably get in trouble. I'm gonna say mid 50s. We'll say mid 50s. So it's
That's an
good
old.
people's experience as well. So yeah, so it's amazing. And it's funny because that whole phrase of men don't talk. um that even that group that we've got there is just amazing, that we get to share experiences. And if something's not right, we'll check in with each other, whether it's like a private DM or something like that. So that's awesome. Love that.
Little one learning to navigate their big emotions? Meet My Moody Monster, the pull apart buddy to help kids understand and manage their feelings. With its fun, interactive design, Moody turns tough feelings into teachable moments, giving your child a playful way to express themselves. Whether it's after a rough day or when those big frustrations hit, Moody is there to lend a hand. Perfect for calming down or even just a cuddle. My Moody Monster helps your child communicate their emotions while learning healthy coping skills. Go to mymoodymonster.com to learn about Moody today. That's great. Yeah, I find it so uplifting when
Yeah.
I wake up. So I'm a late riser and I'm a late nighter. And when I wake up in the morning, I have two different groups that I can read through. They've been posting since 6 in the morning. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, and I wake up and I have all this positivity come out of those WhatsApp chats, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's just so important that we remember that there are others out there who, we can create a beautiful community around.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And do you know what's really funny? And I think this is something that when I was a kid, I almost begrudged my mum because she was busy. I would like, I didn't like the fact she was always off with the church or always helping people. And even now, she's in her, she'll kill me for saying this, but she's in her 70s now, and she's just every day she's like creating a PowerPoint for the church, or she's doing some of this. And you know, um, it's amazing because I always joke and say, like, I've never really seen my mum as religious, but she's just always been involved with the community and supporting, and she's there baking cakes for a cake sale. Yeah, so it's
It's
something
like,
that I don't think I really got to appreciate when I was younger, because I didn't really realize what I was seeing.
right, right. We don't understand those aspects until we become adults ourselves. Like she found
Yeah.
her purpose in that,
Yeah.
helping her community in that way. And, my mother's the same. She started working early for a doctor's office, and she was there from 7 in the morning till 8, 10 o'clock at night. And
Mhm.
it was her purpose. Sure, we felt kind of abandoned, especially
Yeah, I
in,
bet. Yeah.
yeah, especially in the sense that we also had an abuser in our home, but it was her drive, it was her purpose.
Yeah.
And, your purpose now is this coaching, is helping others
Yeah.
to, get out of their own feelings of, non-worthiness, right?
Yeah. And do you know what, the thing that's really kind of, I spent a lot of time trying to work out with who I wanted to work with. I went through a stage of only wanting to work with women. Now, I'll tell you why I only wanted to work with women, and it's because I didn't want to work with my dad.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
because I wanted to stay safe in my mind from, I don't want to work with, and this again, this is no reflection on anyone who's going through alcohol struggles, but I really was triggered by working with someone like my dad.
Yeah.
So I went so far over to like, I'm going to only work with women because all my best friends, most of my best friends are women. I hang out with women. Now that's just the way I am. And I realized that I was protecting myself even at the early stages of setting my coaching business up. And I realized that I actually want to work with me 5 years before, because it's the me that from 5 years before that didn't know any of this stuff. And had made like little kind of footsteps into, oh, I like this guy. This guy's interesting. And then people would say, oh, yeah, but that's just woo woo nonsense. What, meditation? Oh, yeah, all right, hippie. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it's the things that I think outside people would say or would influence me. And I go, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably a load of rubbish. Now I meditate twice a day. Now I write in a journal twice a day. And like the journaling itself, I'll give you this little example. Just through my daughter journaling, both my wife and my daughter both journal. My daughter not all the time because she's 13 now, and sometimes it's not good, not cool. Sometimes she wants to do it because daddy's doing it, and she at the top of her journal she's got smiley faces, so it's sad all the way through to unhappy. And quite often with her when she was younger, she would say like, "Oh, which one?" She'd circle and be like, "Is that medium?" She'd say, "I'm medium." I'd say, "Is that medium happy or medium sad?" And one day she had this. It was a little while ago. She had this moment where she was able to verbalize that she was feeling sad, and from that, it sparked a conversation about her getting some additional support about the grief of our losing our dog.
Yeah.
And it's just by her circling a face that kind of allowed her to have that openness to share how she was feeling, that you know because it's a process that's kind of safe. She was like, yeah, I feel a bit sad about the dog, this happened, that happened. And they were talking about World War I or World War II at school, and when the families all left from the homes, the animals were sometimes left behind, and the animals sometimes were left to die. And she found that a bit upsetting. That triggered the thing about the dog, and we were able to get her some support for the grief of the dog. And I just think you know that started from her circling a smiley or a sad face.
That's so powerful.
And if it works for kids, guess
Hmm.
what, it works for adults too.
Right. Yeah, that's what I say about my monster doll that I created.
Yeah.
I created it for myself. So I created a doll that you can rip apart. They're made of Velcro. And I made it out of my own frustrations with my complex PTSD symptoms.
Mhm.
And I was using it, and I kind of did it backwards, where I was like, well, if it works for me, it can work for other people, especially children. But now people are seeing that it works for children, it can work for them. So I completely
Absolutely.
see that, progression that
Mhm.
happens. So yeah. So tell me more about NLP.
So yeah, so a lot of the NLP, obviously, we have the conscious and the subconscious mind. I say obviously because I sometimes just assume everyone knows. So a lot of the work with that I do with people is kind of sometimes going back to a childhood memory, and we'll do a lot of things like visualizations where we will potentially. I don't like to use the phrase trance because everyone thinks it's kind of like some like ooh, but
Mediumship.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, it sounds like something out of a 90s like dance place. But so we'll kind of do some breath work, and then people we'll get them to close their eyes, and we'll get them to do some visualization where they're looking for a time in their life where particularly maybe something was a trigger moment, or we can go the other way. What do you want to do in the future? So you can like visualize the future. And there's so many different. I spent 6 months doing this program, and it was amazing because not only did I get to learn about all the different techniques, um, but I've also got to experience them because as part of the training, you would demonstrate and practice the techniques with one of your peers, and then they would practice and demonstrate techniques with yourself. So um, there's various different ways that we've kind of I've kind of worked with people where just by even, like I say, going into looking into the future, well, what do you want in the future? And I've had people that have kind of done this visualization technique where they've looked into the future and then they've written down all this stuff afterwards and they've gone, oh yeah. I've had people see a house where they live with their family and they're like, oh yeah, I can see a dog. And they're like, I've never wanted a dog before. Oh, perhaps I do want a dog. It'd be nice to have a dog. That sounds silly, but um, but the thing is, once you can look forward to things like this as well, I think you also get to appreciate the present a lot more because you have goals and you have, you know, your aspirations in life. And I think a lot of people are um I think it's great to go backwards and look at stuff, but I think we can also focus forward. My old coach used to say, I was going to say this now. It was look forward, measure forward, look back, or something like that in one of those phrases. So measure backwards. You know where you were, but then like let's look forward because we can kind of know where we came from and how we how we can kind of get on with our lives because it's very easy, and a lot of people do this, to go, oh yeah, but that's never happened for me. And yeah, so I think with a lot of things with people, and I talk about a lot with my clients, the whole program that I work with is the work-life harmony blueprint. And a lot of what we do is kind of, again, look forward, measure backwards, and kind of work out like what have you learned, and is there something that's in the past that's holding you back? Is there something that we can work on? I was just having a listen to. It was really bizarre that we're having this conversation. Actually, I had a listen to one of the old tracks from the old band that I did with Tom when we were in the old band, literally 2 or 3 nights ago, and there's a song on there called Karma Killer.
Ah,
And it's got this very kind of like Led Zeppelin, like da 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 da, like real riffy rock.
nice.
And I listened to it and I said to Kate, I said, "Oh my God, I can smell the studio. I feel like I'm there."
Wow.
And you don't realize that there's all these anchors, and we do a lot of work with anchors with NLP as well, which are these kind of trigger points from something like if I don't know if you've ever heard this or had this example before, that if you were to close your eyes and then think of a lemon, and then you cut the lemon, and then you open your mouth, stick your tongue out, and then you lick the lemon, your tongue will salivate.
Hmm.
A lot of this kind of like when people say about visualization, oh yeah, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, I bet it does.
Mm.
You do the lemon trick with someone and they go, oh, okay. So there's a lot of things that we do with stuff like that are kind of anchors from things. I use the lemon example quite a lot because it's one that's quite commonly used. But
It's a great one. I never really thought about it
the worst
before.
part about it is my tongue salivated when I did that. I was like, oh, okay.
It's amazing the different modalities that are available to people, and each of them help different people at different times in their lives, right?
Yeah.
Like, I work with my therapist on EMDR,
Mhm.
which, it's
When I first heard that, I thought that was electric dance music, and I was like, oh,
exactly. I thought the same thing. Yeah, no, I am basically looking at a light going back and forth in a light bar.
mm,
And you wouldn't expect that doing something like that would start to alleviate like fear
mm,
and sadness and anger, but it does. And I'd never heard of most of the modalities that are out there now until probably the 2000s.
yeah.
But I think they were out there for a very long time, but nobody really talked about those. We didn't hear about the modalities that could help us at different times in our lives.
I didn't know. Whenever you said about meditation, I just thought hippie.
Mm,
Like, I haven't missed a meditation in 18 months, every single day. Um, I actually, funny enough, I stopped tracking my meditations because I realized they were a habit. And I actually talked to someone last week and we were talking about, when people still track, this might trigger some people, so apologies. When people talk about they track their alcohol, I'm 100 days, I'm 200 days.
mm,
I have a theory that if you're still tracking, you still have a problem.
mm.
So with the meditation, for me, I stopped tracking because I was like, oh yeah, cool.
It's an
It's just
everyday thing.
my day.
Yeah.
And I haven't drunk myself for, I don't know, a few years. I genuinely don't know if it's 3 or 4 years, but I just don't drink.
Yeah.
And that was a conscious effort for my health and everything else. Yeah, that when I go back and say like the meditation thing, that's like, I just wish I'd done this 20 years ago.
Mhm.
So wish I'd done this 20 years ago.
But it had that stigma that it's woo woo, that
Yeah.
it's, only gurus will teach you how to meditate, that kind of thing. And it's been around for such a long time and so useful for so many people. But
Mhm.
societally, we look at it as if it's a waste of time because we're always on the go. We're always doing something. We have to be doing something. We have to be, productive at every moment of our life. And if we're not, then we're lazy.
I grew up in a world where little girls write in diaries. They write their secrets in their diaries. Now I'm a big girl. Who knows? Because I absolutely love it. I just don't know what I would do without being able to share, but with myself. Because sometimes when stuff's whirling around in here, just being able to write it down or express it in a meditation, it's just yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is.
So, what would you suggest to someone who has these limiting beliefs in themselves? What would you say to them as a coach or just as someone starting out looking to, create a new life for themselves?
hmm So I quite often look at this, and this is one thing I kind of, if you got someone who's doing something and maybe they've already started, and excuse me, I always ask them like, why did you start? What again? One of the opening questions I use with a lot of clients is like, when they say like, why are you here? So like, what brought you here? Like, where was the motivation? Because we're all motivated by various different things, and I'm not going to lie, sometimes life comes and slaps us on the ass and you don't expect it, There was a moment where we were done with the hospital and that was it. And then a year later, my daughter gets rushed into hospital and, we were kind of thrown into this whirlwind. But you have to work out why did you start, and as a parent, we did that because we wanted to be parents and we wanted to show up for her. We've adopted her and we want to do the best we can for her. And ultimately, selfishly, we wanted to be parents. That's the ultimate reason. When you actually look back at it, you're like, well, actually, when you do get those bad days, why did we start? Why are we in this limiting belief of going, oh my God, if we hadn't have had kids, we wouldn't have to deal with this. Well, actually, we started because, we can support a child, but two, we get to do some cool stuff as a family. So I think sometimes a lot of the things that, when it comes to a limiting belief for me, is if it's holding you back, like whatever you want to do, what's the outcome that you can get if that limiting belief's gone? And, if we're going to start on a target for whether it's launching a business, whether it's just something as simple as like, you know, learning. I've had people who want to kind of just learn to swim because they've never been able to swim. And you can kind of do all these different things with people that, you know, when you get told at school your lights are on but no one's home, like how Do you know what I recently did? And I've not actually told anyone about this, so I'm kind of um, I was going to share this on my social media, but I'll share it with you.
Yay.
In the UK, we have this. Um, when you're 15, 16, you get your record of achievement, and it's like a red folder, like a hardback folder, and it's where you would put your certificates, your GCSE results, and you go through this whole thing where your school tutor will write like a recommendation to your further education. And about a month ago, we were just getting rid of some old paperwork, and we've got like a little like a paper furnace that we use, and we chucked some old paper in there, and I just said to my other half, I'm going to throw it in there. She was, I'm going to put mine in there too. Now
Yes.
this has my certificates from school. Now my GCSE results were uh, one C, two Ds, three E's, and an F.
Okay.
Now that's not great because C is just mediocre. However, they have never ever stopped me doing anything.
That's right.
And I recently had a conversation with a local college, and they said to me, "Oh, if you wanted to work with us, you would need to do this, and you'd need to retake your GCSEs because you have to have a certain level." I'm like, I'm 43 years old.
Yeah.
I ain't taking that.
No, not a thing.
I've not been running a business for 17 years and doing everything that goes with that to have to retake my exam results from when I was 16. So we just went, do you know what? Put it in the fire.
Yes.
And we were like, whoa, that was powerful. But do you know what? It was the statement in there from a school teacher about the, the whole kind of who I was, and oh, and Andrew's quite relaxed in his attitude was the thing from my tutor. Like, can
That's
you imagine now in what year are we in? 2025.
2025. Yeah.
Still not used to it. Can you imagine a parent receiving that? Oh yeah, he's relaxed in his attitude, and the lights are on, and no one's home.
Yeah.
But that's what I was told as a kid.
The aggressions that we received from adults back when we were kids is just was so out of control. A math teacher told me everyone else can do it. Why can't you? Stuff like
Hmm.
that. They put those limiting beliefs on us. They started
Yeah.
that. They
Yeah,
created those beliefs when we were just children.
yeah. And the thing is, as well, there isn't anything that you can't do.
Right.
You know, anything is possible. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I should probably be a heart or a brain surgeon because I have no idea what I'm doing. But there's nothing I can't do. There's nothing you can't do. There's nothing my daughter can't do. My daughter's not going to take exams at school because she goes to special ed school. But she can be whatever she wants to be. She can do whatever she wants to do.
That's right.
And yeah, there's nothing holding us back, is there, right?
No, there really isn't. Ah,
And as soon as we learn that and realize these things, um, in the words of was it Friends, where she says, "You're her lobster," and you're like, "Yeah,
yeah.
the world's your lobster."
Yes, Phoebe. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things from Friends.
Mm.
But yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Andy, for this conversation. Tell me where we can find you.
So on social media, I'm normally, well, on all social media, I'm just Andy Casey. I'm Andy Coach Casey. So just ANDY Coach Casey. And then my website is just coachcasey.co.uk. I've got some interesting stuff on my website. I've got a meditation that people can download and so forth. And yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I'm really kind of passionate about kind of sharing and helping people along on their journey because everything's possible.
It is. You're right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'm going to have to get myself one of these moody monsters because I think you should make them for dogs though, because my dog is forever tearing things apart. We can put it
Yep.
back together again afterwards. That'd be amazing.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you. I love Andy's view on life. You can do anything, and it's true. Take those limiting beliefs and throw them in the fire like Andy's school transcripts. and turn off the outside voices that are mainly from our past, telling us that we aren't enough. I'm fascinated with NLP as a way to visualize a future that maybe we never thought we would have or even want. So check out Andy's website and learn more about how he has transformed his life and how he can help you do the same. There's a guided meditation I have to try out on there too.